So that is one of the federal cases against Donald Trump. One of the federal cases against Trump. There's also news this morning about the pending Georgia case. CNN has learned that Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis will seek charges against at least 12 people for the efforts to overturn the election there. And those charges could come as soon as the beginning of next week.
That's absolutely right. And this morning, Fani Willis, who has been, as we're learning from sources, eyeing conspiracy and racketeering charges, is also now receiving more security protection. Donald Trump in recent days has just been railing against her as his team is bracing for what they feel will soon become his fourth indictment this year. Joining us now is Danya Perry. She's a former federal prosecutor. It's good to see you, Danya. 12 people charged potentially in Georgia. That is a lot. What does it tell you?
It tells me that all of the reporting that the charges will include RICO and wide-ranging conspiracy charges appear to be accurate, that this is going to be a broad scheme that will be charged. And unlike in the federal indictment for the January 6th conduct, this, it doesn't have this, Fani Willis does not have the same kind of time pressures that the federal prosecutors have in trying to get, the entire case prosecuted, tried, and sentenced before the upcoming elections. The DA in Fulton County doesn't have that same kind of concerns, so she can charge a broad conspiracy or racketeering charges against, sounds like, up to a dozen defendants. That's going to take a long time to prosecute and to bring to trial, and she doesn't care in the same way as the feds do.
Why is that, Danya? Is that because she doesn't have to worry about if Trump wins the election and pardons himself?
I think that's exactly right. The pardon system is very different in Georgia, as I understand it, and there is no possibility of pardon there in the same way that, it is believed that Trump could at least attempt to pardon himself should he win re-election. And so this case will play out in its time. These cases take a long time, and certainly the DA herself has tried any number of them, and they take a long time to wind their way through the court system. And this case surely will be, like the other cases that she has so much experience in prosecuting.
What's the risk reward here of bringing an indictment against a bunch of people, as we could be seeing in Georgia, versus, I'll call it a drip, 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 which is what we're looking at potentially with the special counsel's 2020 election, the federal case?
Prosecutors tend to prefer bringing all of their defendants, folding them into one indictment. It's much more efficient. It tells a better story for a jury, and it keeps the court system moving. Instead of doing one-off cases. So that is the preferred methodology. That does not appear to have been an option for the special counsel's office. But for the DA in Fulton County, she has, again, she has the luxury of a bit more time. This one is, in sequence, it's last in time. And given the number of defendants and the complexity of the charges, it surely will be last, or, should come later in the timing of all of these court cases that the former president is trying to juggle. And again, there are some efficiencies and kind of jury appeal reasons for doing it that way.
More defendants, Danya. Does that mean more potential people who could flip?
Yes, that is always the case. Of course, in the special counsel's case, there are, for now, at least 6 unnamed, unindicted co-conspirators. There's always pressure for them to flip as well. They know who they are. But here there's even more pressure if they are named and indicted co-defendants. There's always that pressure. And surely, as with any RICO style charges, there are going to be leaders, there are going to be middlemen, there are going to be, kind of the lower level folks. And so, there's always, I think, a lot of pressure and a lot of good reason for the lower level conspirators to flip up and against, their bosses and lieutenants.
Danya Perry, former federal prosecutor, great to see you. Thank you so much for helping us out this morning.